Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of MetalNet TV's conversation series, where I talk to amazing musicians who we all love and we all want to learn a little bit more about. Today, I'm really lucky to have Courtney Cox with me, and we're going to start that conversation in just a moment. But before we do, I just want to remind you to subscribe to MetalNet TV and click that notification bell if you already haven't, and also to follow MetalNet TV on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Here we go. Hey, Courtney, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for joining me on MetalNet.
My pleasure.
So today I'm going to ask you about all sorts of things about your life and your career and your amazing bands. I know, right? Like, oh, I can remember. But I just wanted to start by saying happy 21st anniversary. I can't believe the Iron Maidens have been together for 21 years.
I'm getting old.
Does that blow your mind though? I know you weren't there at the very, very beginning, but you've been with the band a very long time. Is it 14 or so years?
13-ish, 14, yeah.
Yeah. So is the band doing anything to celebrate? I actually talked to Linda like a few months before the 20th. But everything was sort of grounded, and then we weren't sure if we'd be able to do anything, and now we're already at 21. Do you guys do anything to celebrate now that you're in the 20th year?
No, well, the funny thing is, I was just going through, Facebook on the 6th. I'm like, wait, there's something about today, and I forget what it is. And then I texted Linda. I'm like, is today like the anniversary of the band? She was like, oh my God, you're right.
That's amazing.
I kind of forgot about it, but I mean, I guess you lose track after that.
After a while, definitely.
It's crazy to look back. I mean, just a tribute band. We've probably been longer than most original bands.
I think so, and continuously, right? It's like some of the bands. Yeah. I do wonder though, where you've been there, about 14 years or so, I had asked Linda when she joined, because I remember when she, kind of started all that up, because I was a huge, and still am, a huge Phantom Blue fan. And I was like, okay, she's doing a new thing now. And I was really excited for her, but I didn't think it was going to last nearly 21 years, I never would have guessed. By the time you came in, so if you're about 14, that means like 7-ish years. The band had been together for quite a while. So at that point, when you were joining, did you kind of have a sense that like, oh, this is going to go for a while and I can join first, presumably for as long as I like, or did you feel like, oh, I might be coming in at the end of something because they've already been together for so long?
No, I never even really thought about that. No, I was just so excited, because I just moved to California. So it's like, okay, your feet have to hit the ground running. And thankfully they were auditioning. I just been along for the ride. I just kind of live in the present, just fortunate that, we are still going and we're still having fun. But yeah, I never thought it would end. Still don't think it's going to end. As
I really don't think it's going to either, to be honest. Why would it? You guys are amazing.
Faster now, it's all over the world, and each tour is bigger and bigger and bigger. It's very fortunate.
Yeah, it is. So we'll go back to the beginning and work our way through to learn about like how you connected with the band and all that. But I just wanted to say that I think that's amazing. And you guys are playing like so many shows, and I feel like every time it looks like they're going to end, it's like, here's a new run.
Like, oh, I finally get to go on a holiday. Nope.
That's awesome though. So let's start at the beginning. I know you're an East Coast girl. I'm in a town outside of Boston, so I'm an East Coast girl too. And I know that you're from the Philly area, but what town are you actually from? Are you from Philadelphia or like a different town?
I'm the first suburb, like right by the airport. It's called Essington, and it's part of Delaware County. So if you ever hear me say Delco,
okay, that is
for us, everyone that lives there. So
okay. And what was that town like when you were growing up? Because you were not to, I usually don't give away people's ages, but you're a youngin'. You were born in 89 and you're like a metal god. So you kind of came in at this time, like you were like in diapers when the rest of us were like reading metal and watching it. Yeah. But
now.
What was it like in your town growing up when you were coming up as as a child or a young girl?
Essington, it's a very small factory town, like a very small town. Everyone knows everything about each other. Like you cannot get in trouble at all because your parents' phone will just be blowing up, But music, really, there was no scene really other than typical like bar bands and stuff. So that's why I would, go into the city, and I was really into thrash when I first started playing. But before that, it was the typical public school, pick an instrument, you're in grade school band. I was first chair clarinet.
I just recently learned what first chair meant because I always heard that term in like the symphony or what have you. And I always assumed it just meant like the most coveted spot when you get hired. I heard recently that means that you're the best. That's awesome.
I always said, like, it's great to be first chair because, like, you work hard and it's a payoff for you, but you always want to be the second chair because if you're in the first chair, everyone's coming for you at all times, every day, single day, every rehearsal. But
that's so true. I never thought about that. But how old were you when you picked up the clarinet?
Oh, I mean, going back before that, it was piano, but I was just a toddler banging on my grandmother's.
Okay.
So really, I think that's where the interest started, but I didn't really think about it at the time, obviously, because I was in diapers. But grade school, well, other than the good old recorder that we all get in like what, third grade?
Just come in so handy in all of our lives.
I would say it was fourth grade.
Fourth grade, okay. And is it that your parents saw you like taking an interest in the piano and they asked you, or is this something you signed up for on your own?
That was just something just throughout the years, I just always gravitated back to music. But, growing up, I think my family pushed more of the athletic side. So I'm a very athletic family.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of strange when everything was going towards music. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So did you have two loves though? Because I had read that you were actually quite a great athlete and that you actually were so good that you had a full ride to college. Is it that you loved both or you just happened to be really good at sports?
I mean, even it was way into sports actually before even music caught on. But yeah, it's lacrosse and everything was lacrosse, like just slept it, everything. And then plans were college and stuff. And then I was in a nasty car accident, which killed that dream. Really messed up my lower back. But you take the bad with the good because I was already dabbling with guitar at the time. But after something as terrible as that ends one dream, kind of lifted the other one.
Yeah.
Definitely take the bad with the good. And here I am. So.
Yeah, you are. Yeah. So for you, it ended up being something that you could make something really positive out of. Yeah. Do you still
looking back at lacrosse, I was like, oh yeah, you're gonna do this for life, be on the best team. And I'm like, wait, it's not in the Olympics. So after college, what do you do?
What can you do with lacrosse? Can you join like a professional team? Are there professional teams in the US?
Yeah, I still to this day, every time the Olympics come around, I'm like, all right, we got cheerleading in there. Why can't we have lacrosse?
I didn't realize it wasn't in there. I don't know a lot about sport.
But for some reason they got rid of it. So I don't know, just very mind-boggling to me. I'd still love to play, but it's just my back.
Are you able to play like, I mean, you're on stage and you're like amazing on stage. So I'm guessing that you got most of your like mobility or whatever it was that was taken away from you then. Are you able to play lacrosse casually if you want to? Is there such thing as playing cross casually?
I think about it. I think all my gear is back at home with my mother, but there's been some times when I visit home that, I'll pick up the stick and just go play wall ball or something.
Yeah.
But physically actually running around in a team, probably not.
Yeah.
If I go down, can't go on stage,
Right.
Stage first. But even with being on stage throughout the years, that's why I train a lot because I really need to keep like my core in shape because if not, it's gonna pull on my back. And there's been some shows where, I just turn the wrong way or do one of the 80s like lunge things and I can't walk for 2 days. So.
All right. Well, I'm sorry that you had to deal with that, but I am glad you found, were able to spend time on your other passion because otherwise we wouldn't be talking today. So to go back to those earlier days, what kind of music were you listening to when you were a kid?
Well, 90s kid, so a lot of Backstreet Boys.
Nice.
But no, it was weird because my brother was a huge avid metal fan, and he was the kind of brother like, it's my music, you can't listen to it. So, and I would sneak into his room and just start grabbing all these CDs, not knowing, what they were.
Yeah.
So remember just being a kid and having a Backstreet Boys going, and then put Kill 'Em All in. It was a weird mix, but I still to this day would go see Backstreet Boys and stuff. It's my guilty pleasure.
I love it.
And all that. It's my jam when it's not every time.
So, and I had asked Nikki this. So, were you just into the Backstreet Boys, or was it all of it, like all of the boy bands and the Britneys and the Christinas?
Oh no, I was like that psycho, like Backstreet Boys for life. No, we can't talk if you like, and but me and Nikki, like, was she born in 90?
90. Yeah, I think she did
That's
90.
all we had really growing up, unless, through family or introduction, because I mean, even Facebook wasn't around, YouTube wasn't around. So the only way to really discover new genres and stuff was word of mouth.
Yeah.
And really rely on the radio at that
She
time.
had mentioned that her parents were into like metal and heavy rock, and you had your brother, so you guys both I guess lucked out in a sense to get the introduction.
I'll go see Backstreet Boys though.
I actually like the Backstreet Boys. I mean, they came to me after the fact, because I'm obviously much older in that. But actually, one day I just realized that to me that they're much different than. I'm also not like that crazy about NSYNC. Like I never got why they, they always felt like more popular to me with people your age.
Did we just become best friends?
I think so. We might have kids, but I do think they're cute. And I did have a crush on Howie when he had long hair.
Everyone thought I was AJ and Howie.
Oh yeah, same. Because they were like, I don't know, AJ is like, edgy compared to the other guys, and I just thought Howie was so pretty. But I think they're really talented, I really do. And I think when I listen to their stuff on the radio, you could still listen to it, because for me it's not really nostalgia like it would be for you, but for me it's like these are actually good adult contemporary songs. So I completely appreciate
you just lost your metal card, and I'm like, actually, if you really listen to it, the chord progressions are great. Some of the songs that have guitar, the guitar is phenomenal on it. It's like
there's some good, I think there's good songwriting there and all that, but I know that there's people who are purists who are like, you have to listen to metal, but there are also the people who tend to think like you have to listen to the heavier stuff. And I like everything, but like I'm into glam mostly, which isn't even really metal. Like it's like really just heavy rock, but no, to me, when I talk to musicians, I find, or even just true music fans, I find that most of you actually listen to a lot of different things. So I don't think it's surprising, but I do think non-metal heads will like, some of my friends will be like, you like Air Supply? And I'm like, yeah, I like Air Supply. I listened to them when I was like 6 years old. You know what I mean? Like that's the music of my childhood before I discovered metal. And they're like always shocked by it, because they're like, you can't like other stuff, you're a metalhead. But I don't think that's true at all. I really don't.
Song is a good song. That's what I tell everyone. I don't care what genre. If it inspires me, I mean, even writing even the heaviest of metal stuff, sometimes listening to that kind of cheesy pop stuff, it does inspire you in a different way that you wouldn't think. Like, oh, well, that change actually works. That would work in metal too. So it just kind of brings everything together, especially when you're writing original material.
I do wonder, before you go on stage, assuming that you listen to music at all, which maybe you don't, would you be more apt to listen to, like, let's say thrash or like any other kind of metal, or would you be more apt to listen to something completely different?
It depends on my mood. A lot of the time you don't even have time backstage. It's like interview, photo shoot that go on stage. So a lot of us, typical backstage partying, it's just all of us on our phone. But if I, especially like putting on my war paint or something, like, I mean, usually go to be like King Diamond and stuff because I'm completely obsessed. But then other than that, sometimes I'll just put a shuffle on and whenever it gets the energy going,
Yeah, I love it. So I do have to ask you, because I asked Nikki, what's your favorite Backstreet song?
The Call.
I love that one. I actually love that one. And that was kind of a little later.
Yeah, I think it was Black and Blue album?
Yep.
Slayer.
That's good. I don't even know why I know that, but I mean, I like them enough that I know that. I'm like, yep, that's the one.
So many of it. It's
a really good song though. It is. Yeah. I interned at VH1, and I was tasked with finding certain research on, I ended up on that sort of boy band Britney Christina episode, which I was bummed about, because I was like, put me on a metal episode. I'm like, and I didn't know who anybody was. So they'd be like, oh, find such and such for so-and-so. And I'm like, they all looked the same to me at the time, because this is before I had my appreciation for Backstreet Boys. But I learned very quickly all the 98 Degrees people. It's really funny. I was just like, okay.
It's like hearing these names like takes you back, like, oh, I remember when the like first single CDs came out, or like cassettes, aging myself.
Oh, so you did have cassettes when you were growing up.
And sitting at the radio trying to get the song.
Yep.
Yeah.
See, I'm surprised, because I would have thought by the time, I mean, you were into music a little, obviously, when you were little, but yeah, I would have thought by the time you came in, it was all CDs, because that's when I was kind of switching over, like, oh, I think I have to start repurchasing everything on CD and then everything digitally.
Well, I think it probably stemmed from like obviously like the hand-me-down thing. Okay, since your brother now has this, CD changer and blah blah blah, you get the boombox. So
Oh, okay.
cassettes. And I remember my first cassette was Tragic Kingdom, no doubt.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Okay.
I
Are you
still have.
still are you still like a Gwen Stefani No Doubt fan?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I almost wore her lipstick today, but
Yeah.
I did. So anyway, but
Red.
no, it's
Red.
really fun to hear about your influences. Now, speaking, you've mentioned your brother a couple of times now. He's a musician himself, right? Tell me a little bit about your brother.
Yeah, a great drummer, and which is funny because I think when I was really getting into music, I wanted to be a drummer first, but my mom's like, hell no, like one drum set in the house.
Okay, she already had one kid in the house, and he wasn't going to share probably.
Yeah, he had like a Randy Rhoads Jackson V, so I ended up stealing that from him. But he already destroyed it. It was covered in stickers, and like half bridge missing, like funny things like that. But yeah, he's in a touring band. He actually has me recording a bunch of solos for him right now.
Nice, nice. And the band is called, hold on, I have it written somewhere, Ultimate Power Corrupts, correct?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So everybody should check out, what's your brother's name?
A bridge.
Bridge?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Very cool. So listen, we gave him a little nod for having the metal collection that you listened to that got us you, right? So you're gonna.
I think he's still very cross with me for stealing all those CDs from him, because he was also like, he knew it was happening because he would like see, the list on the computer that we all shared, and then you just go in and delete it, and then come attacking me because not only where it was his CDs, but he's like a collector, so he would examine everyone I took, like, there's a scratch now.
Yeah.
So sorry.
That's really funny. Well, if he burned them for you, he wouldn't have had that problem. See, this is how sisters think versus how brothers think, I think.
Oh, he'll never catch me. Oh.
That's awesome. So is that when you got into like King Diamond and Metallica and all the bands that you tend to kind of reference a little bit more?
Metallica was really the big one for me. It was Kirk Hammett that really wanted me to dive into guitar. And even with Metallica, I was that kid, like, if you don't like Metallica, you're not my friend.
So it was Metallica and Backstreet.
Yeah. And then you just start going backwards. There's Priest and obviously Pantera, but the one that stuck out that I found myself was King Diamond.
Okay.
Just going back and going back and going back. And then I just dove deeper into the thrash side of things. So like Testament, Demolition Hammer, Overkill on the East Coast.
Nice.
Testament, California, but
yeah,
just never looked back. So.
And were you mostly into thrash, or did you listen to some of the like more rock based band, like the Femme Fatales and
It was mostly thrash. I didn't even really. I had Maiden CDs, but it didn't really turn on to Maiden until I was 9th grade when Dance of Death came out. Everyone's gonna kill me now, but no, I was my ears just went thrash.
Yeah,
that kind of. Yeah, but even just idolizing like guitar heroes of the Gilberts, and so I did dive into some of the glam stuff. Like I was really obsessed with Vito Bratta, and stuff like that. So it was just a combination of everything, really. But yeah, thrash was the up here, then everything else.
And then everything else, yeah.
So break.
Yeah. Okay, so did you dabble on the piano, or did you play the piano before you moved to clarinet?
Dabbled a little bit, and then during the time I was playing clarinet, I asked if I could do keyboard some things, and I flute for a while. Then I did violin, but guitar is the one that obviously stuck.
So was your brother's messed up guitar the first one you got your hands on before you got your own?
Yeah, but literally could not even plug it in. It was that bad. So I ended up, my mom had an old guitar from when she attempted playing when she was younger, and I traded that in at like a mom and pop shop. I think it was called Top 10 Music in Glen Olden. Yay. And I had no clue what I was doing. And I just picked the one off the wall I thought looked cool.
Yep. I think that's how most people do it, first guitar.
And I can still actually see that wall of guitars to this day in my head. Like, why did I pick the one that I picked? Because it was the worst, action that high. But, I guess it helped form the muscles in my hands. Learning how to play on something was just so terrible. And I'm not going to mention the brand name, but yeah, I think it actually helped in the long run. Because now it's like, okay, if you can't make any guitar, doesn't matter the amount of money. If you can't make anything sound good, you're not doing it right.
I've heard like music teachers give that advice. Like if you can make that sound good, then when you get like better instruments, you're better for it.
And you appreciate more too.
Yeah, definitely. Was it pink or green by chance?
No, it was black, and I put red stickers all over it.
I love it.
I still have it, which is funny.
Oh, do you?
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever play it, or do you have it more for?
No, because it's still terrible.
It's still terrible, yeah. So at some point in your childhood, so I think you started guitar at 13, right? That's when you really first picked up. But what was really interesting about your history is that you went to, I want to make sure I get it right, the Paul Green School of Music.
Yeah.
Which apparently it's like the School of Rock, right?
Yeah, actually the movie with Jack Black was based off
that one.
School in Philly,
okay.
Yeah.
So what I found really interesting about your experience is it felt like you were there, we were with them for quite a while. And that I had heard you say that you've learned, it was beyond just taking like music classes and that you really learned a lot because you got to tour with them and that you saw a lot of like behind the scenes things that probably people your age didn't get. Could you talk to me a little bit about your experience at that school?
It was funny because, I was every day for like 9 hours in my garage, like playing guitar, learning guitar. And then my mom, like, I think she saw an advertisement about it, like in the newspaper. She's like, oh, because, no friends because it was just guitar and no one else like around me or my friends played anything. So I went and checked it out and my mom signed me up. And what they do, like you have lessons, which I think I went to 3 in my whole tenure there. 8 lessons, 8. But signed me up for lessons. And then, so when you have lessons, they do 1 show a month and it's all different kinds of shows. But I remember the day I signed up, they were doing Iron Maiden versus Judas Priest.
Oh.
And so they gave me a couple songs and the first rehearsal was actually that night, but they're like, okay, you can come the following weekend, just learn your songs. I took my, what had I had? Flight of Icarus. I forget what I had now, but there was like 2 Maiden, 2 Priest. Free will burn, wheel burning. I'm not gonna remember them all, but I remember I rushed home, but I learned all 4 songs, and then was at the first rehearsal. And being the new kid, I was the only one that knew all my songs already. So I got the who are you, But from that on, yeah, I was just like, I always viewed it as, I loved attending that place. Met so many great musicians. Like Gina Gleason, like we grew up together. She's in Baroness now, and she was in Queen Dinah with me too. It was just the lesson side of it because I can't focus on anything, kind of probably like ADHD, can't focus. It's like it was kind of like going to the gym. Like you want to go to the gym, but it's getting to the gym,
Right.
So it would be like me, like, oh, I don't want to drive into Philly, go to a lesson. So I didn't attend a lot of them, which I felt bad for. But best thing, like you mentioned, was the touring aspect of it because started at 13. I'm in this great experience of a program, meeting all these musicians, and 15 they sent us on the road. First one was Adrian Ballou, so I have this little thrash Courtney now having to play Prague, King Crimson stuff. So I'm like, okay. And after that it was John Anderson. So still a lot of Prague stuff with Yes and I always laugh because John Anderson would laugh because every rehearsal I would have like a Slayer shirt on. So it's like playing all this Yes stuff wearing a Slayer shirt. It was great. But yeah, just so many opportunities, and it really shaped myself to be able to handle what I have to deal with now, being a lot older, especially with business and dealing with promoters. But yeah, stuff you would not normally get as a kid that age. Just first introduction to the music business, but I'm glad I went through it. It helped a lot.
So I'm guessing that because you were that kid that showed up that first day, already knew the songs, knew them better or more fully than the other kids. Is that why they let you get away with not doing all the lessons, or was it really like you can do whatever you want because you're paying?
Not at first, like, kind of get like the truancy call kind of thing. But I think as I got older and had more tours under my belt and being a part of the all-star group, they called it, kind of got a little away with murder, but You
And
know,
were you weekend warriors? Is it like you go to school Monday through Friday and then you did like little touring on the weekend, or did they take you out of school for a chunk?
oh, it was a lot of out of school. Like my teachers hated me.
Oh, wow.
But, you know, you just take the books on the road, and I still had top grades in pretty much every class because I read the book, you know. But yeah, that was one of the tough things, was taking off weeks on end from school,
Mhm.
especially when you have like the big tests, you know, like SATs and stuff, like, you know, the big state tests, and you're not there.
Yeah.
But you know, just put your head down, study, and make sure you pass the test.
Yeah, so I'm curious then. That's amazing because I figured it was like summer vacation, weekends or that, but they were like you're on tour. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Another thing I heard you mention is that you got acquainted with this notion of, like how hotel rooms work and all of that, all of these things that are not so glamorous, kind of the reality of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So how much of that did you get to see? Like, were you protected or sheltered because you were kids and there were other people planning it, or were you kind of part of that experience as well?
A little bit of everything. I mean, obviously, kids on the road, so there was uh, adult chaperones and stuff. But the owner of the school, he didn't sugarcoat anything, because I think he wanted us to see that it's all not, you know, rock and roll, bells and whistles, you know, party. So he wanted us. I mean, he was not easy on us, you know, to begin with. Just, you know, playing the music and stuff. Like, we had to be on point. But you know, it kind of let us fail in a sense that he wanted us to know what it's like to not have sleep, because you stayed up instead of going, you know, it was harsh love, I guess, but it worked.
And
So
then the last question I have about that experience is, when you were on tour, were you in bands? Like, this is this band and you're going to see them in such and such city, or was it the Paul Green School of Music and you're going to see Paul Green School of Music and various people getting on stage?
the touring part, they called it the School Rock All Stars, so the cream of the crop that go on tour and stuff.
Okay.
But the school itself would have like normal shows at its own school for.
Okay. So the tour was that band. And so you would have had like a couple guitarists, a bass player, a drummer, and so far. Okay.
Out and songs. That was fun.
Cool. That sounds like an amazing
Personalities, a lot of personalities.
all part of it, isn't it?
Fun part.
So at what point did you well, I guess at this point you knew that you weren't going to get the full ride to college anymore, I'm guessing. Correct me if I'm wrong. But you want to do music because it seems like it's something that you've fully embraced and you've given up regular school to go on tour. So this is like something you do now. At what point did you decide to move to LA, and what prompted like that move? What was the moment for you where you're like, it's time?
Well, after doing all these tours and then not seeing college in the future, I remember talking to one of I think it was my history teacher. And I'm like, well, what would you do? And he looked at me. He's like, college is always there. Go on the road, because not many people get the chance. And I just looked at myself. I'm like, yeah, he's right. And I remember, you know, having to tell my band Queen Diamond at the time, which turned into Metallica, which is fun, because I was leaving. I'm like, you can't turn it into a Metallica band without me, you know. No, I remember just sitting and thinking about it, and it just got so embedded in my head, like, I have to do this, I have to go. And I remember talking to my mom. I gave her like a week's notice too, like, oh, by the way, I'm moving to California. I remember she was so upset, like wouldn't even look at me. But she finally came around and was like, yeah, if you don't leave this town now, you never will. So I never looked back.
Yeah.
I'm the only one from my entire family out here.
So everybody else is in the Philly area, or at least on the East Coast. Yeah.
So that was tough, but you know, got to grow the thick skin.
Yeah. So when you came to LA, or when you went to LA first, did you know anybody there? Because like you had toured with a few musicians and you met a lot of really like legendary people like George Lynch and people like that. So when you got to LA, was it like, oh, I kind of know folks, or were you still the person who got there and like didn't know anybody?
I would say 50-50. Like, you would run into people like just from bands you've seen and became friends over the years. Like, oh yeah, I just moved here. But a lot of it was just learning from scratch. You know, it was a whole new life. You know, how do I pay the bills? How do I get a car? This and that. And then, I mean, just thankfully, you know, the stars aligned, and you know, I think I was just trying to make ends meet playing in a Kiss tribute. But there's a lot of makeup. I don't recommend it. and their manager was like, oh, did you hear that Iron Maidens are auditioning? I'm like, huh? And I remember it was MySpace times. Oh, I miss MySpace. And I remember sending all my videos, resume, and then I was so sad because I didn't hear anything back. So I went on another thing, emailed from that, and then they're like, oh yeah, we wanted to tell you we want you to come in immediately, but we weren't allowed to send you a message back because of your privacy settings.
Oh my God.
Like,
so here you're like waiting for something and they couldn't even get you.
Yeah, like, we tried, it just got bounced back, but I went in for audition. Yeah, it was great. And before I left, we're like, okay, you have to come back in tomorrow afternoon. Here's 4 more songs, like that test, see how fast you can.
Yeah.
Back in, played those extra 4 songs plus other ones I already knew, and family was born.
It's amazing. Who was in the band at the time when you joined?
Wanda, Linda, and the other guitar player at the time was named Sara. There was actually, when I auditioned, they were still looking for a singer. And I remember, I think a few months after I got the gig, they had vocal auditions, and here comes Kirsten.
I love it.
I think our first show was Vegas in 2009. Okay. And it was the concrete, like, okay, we're doing this, contract signed,
Is she your tour buddy? Because you guys have like the best TikToks. They're hilarious.
Yeah, we're like Tweedledee and Tweedledum when it's we're always laughing about something. I don't even know how like the rest of the band puts up with this.
That's really funny.
My voice is always gone from laughing with her so much. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really fun. So you've been in the Iron Maidens. Everybody knows the Iron Maidens. You guys are phenomenal. You play a ton of shows. It feels like it's just like never ending with the shows. Do you love being on stage? Is that something that like really speaks to you, or are you somebody that like secretly wishes you were like in the studio more or writing more?
No, I love being on stage. It's everything leading up to taking those first 2 steps on stage, like really gets under your skin, like traveling. Like some of the tours, it's literally like get off stage, get packed up by 2:30, back at the airport 5 for a red eye, and that every day. Like, and then that's a thing I don't think a lot of people realize. Like a band goes on later, like, I can't believe they made us wait, but like you don't know what's going on behind the scenes and stuff. There's a lot that goes on for that show to even happen. I mean, months in advance, that show's already being planned, and writers and equipment. But I love being on stage, but I also love being in the studio. But it's trying to find the time, It's like once the bills are paid, you're mentally stable, physically fit, then you can start like, okay, I'm gonna go spend the week in the studio. It's just this planning, which I'm terrible at, but I guess I just play guitar. I need an assistant sometimes.
That's awesome. So another band that I love that you've been in is Femme Fatale. And when I had Lorraine on a couple of times, and the first time I had her on, she told a really funny story about how, Femme Fatale used to be female led, and then she was reforming them for Monsters of Rock, who had reached out and said, we want Femme Fatale. And then she decided she put together an all female version. So I know that she was looking for one guitarist, and she reached out to 2 people, and I would love to hear it from your side, because I think it's the funniest story.
If I remember this correctly, God, what year was that? 2012? The 13.
She said it was about 2012 for the 2013.
Yes. So me and Nita were sharing an apartment in the valley out here. I remember I was coming back from the grocery store or something, and then obviously got the phone call from Lorraine sitting in a parking lot. Like, okay, the popsicles are melting. I gotta go. And I remember walking through the door, like, yeah, I think I should just join a band or have an audition or something. And Nita goes, me too. I'm like, was it Lorraine? She's like, yeah. Because we were also driving around the day before, like, somehow we got on the topic of, female vocalists and which ones we liked. And then Big One was playing. Mm-hmm. Curious, and we were funny, like, oh, I really like her voice. And then sure enough, the next day we get a call from Lorraine. It's just so funny that we're, you too? Yeah. Like high five.
But at the time, did you know that she was actually looking for one guitar?
No idea. I mean, I wasn't obviously keeping up with the band at all. Like, just she came out just because we heard Big One on the radio or
Yeah,
seriously.
that's so funny.
Small world.
I know. And she said that, she felt like when you guys told her that story about how you'd been listening to her like the day before, she was like, the stars just aligned. And she's like, I didn't know they were friends and roommates. And so then I had to hire them both. But I think it turned out amazing, right? Like she ended up with both of you. So what was that like for you to be in Femme Fatale?
I mean, it was great because obviously in the tribute world, it was nice to, I mean, even though I was still playing songs that were written way before I was born, it was, I guess I felt like I had a little more freedom, because you would take the old solos, but, I had the power to change a little bit here, a little bit there, and not be, driven over the coals. Like if I change anything in Maiden, you can't do that.
Right, like everybody in the audience is going to call you out on somewhere.
It's funny because some of the Maiden stuff, I've been playing it for so long. Like, I'll tweak a note here or there, but I just always make sure I keep the main theme or the main, licks in it. People don't notice. Now they're going to.
Yeah, they will.
But no, it was fun, and it was great to, be invited on that cruise and then be, little Courtney running around seeing all the bands. Oh my God, loudness. Oh my God, this Saxon. And then
was that your first cruise, Courtney?
Playing, yes.
Okay, cool.
I don't know, it was like 70,000 tons as a pool girl before.
Oh, really? Oh, that's fun.
No, it was not.
Well, but did you
cruise
shows that time too, or were you so busy working that like?
For what was it? One more time, sorry.
For the time before you were on the cruise, did you get to see or interact with anybody, or were you just working?
Just working, really.
Oh, that's a bummer.
But these cruises are so fun. And then we ended up playing, I think 3 more, something like that. And then even like going to some of these, and being able to play these 80s festivals. I'm like, okay, we're opening up for Winger. Woo! I don't know. I loved I was just trying not to be fangirl half the time.
Yeah. So when you joined, I mean, you knew about, well, actually I have a question to ask you before I ask you that. Lorraine told me that she was told that Monsters Rock likes to keep things kind of secret, and they were going to reveal the bands later on. And of course, Femme Fatale hadn't been together for many years. So it would have been like a really huge, exciting announcement. And that when she hired you, that she told you couldn't tell anybody. What was it like to get this like really cool gig and then like have to keep it secret for probably the better part of a year?
Actually, it wasn't that tough because I'm not normally the one that likes to brag about what I have. It kind of looks bad on you sometimes if you're always like, guess what? Go and check. So it wasn't really that hard per se, and it really wasn't. At the time, I was still touring with the Maidens and stuff, so there wasn't really any time to even talk about it. Obviously the band members knew,
right?
But no, it wasn't.
I guess you had needed to talk to about it too. It's not like you were
all right, you done the songs? Yeah, okay.
That's awesome. And then when you guys joined, were you thinking, okay, it's just going to be for these very particular gigs like cruises and like 80s fests and that, or did you feel like, okay, I'm being invited to this band and that there's probably going to be like a third Femme Fatale album that will be on, and maybe a fourth, or because that's what I was hoping for. More albums. But did you feel like you were joining like a band that was hopefully going to have a future, or did you feel like, okay, I'm joining this really cool band that's going to play all these amazing gigs?
Joining this band, playing all these amazing gigs, because we didn't really know that much other than this cruise. What was going, because I think that was, just, will this work? With these new people. Obviously it's Lorraine's baby and she wants it to be perfect before going off into anything else. We did talk about starting to write again, but I think it just kind of was pushed aside because we were doing the cruises and stuff, doing random shows here and there, just trying to get the train going.
Yeah.
And obviously, Lorraine ended it because Vixen, and I still think about it from time to time. I'd love to get back and play. Maybe just like a secret show, play all the songs again. They were fun.
You have to let me know what the secret show is. Because I'll be so upset if you have one and I don't know about it.
You'll know. I'll make sure.
I told Lorraine the first time I met her, I said, I refuse to believe that Femme Fatale is over. I think you're just on pause.
Yeah.
and that you will get back together and you will do all the things.
Waiting for the big one.
That'll be amazing. So I'm going to move on along to what is going on now. And I was really excited to hear that you're doing a solo album, or I'm assuming it's an album. So my first question is, I've heard you say that, you really loved, you're kind of old school like I am. You really loved like albums because they take you on a journey, and that you feel that you're meant to listen to music like on an album from beginning to end, that like music that belongs together. So can we assume that you're not going to release like one single at a time, and that you're either going to put out an EP or a full-length album?
I think just when everything's done, everything's signed, sealed, delivered, probably just release one track. Just
okay.
Be like, okay, it's done.
Okay.
And then, but yeah, I would like to release it in full because I like the journey aspect of things. But then, you want that, but if you upload it to, obviously the like Spotify's and stuff like that, people are going to jump around anyway. But I think purists, I hope, in regards to mine, will listen to it all the way through. But also that drives you nuts when you're writing, because they're like, okay, full length, so like 10, 11, maybe the old school secret, keep the last track playing. But where's I going with that? It's just, even trying to, I wouldn't say a concept album, but just something that flows. You just got to keep writing and writing and writing, and then sit back, listen to all these, like, okay, what ones actually will flow together? Because you can't put 20 songs. I mean, you could, but not for a first release. So it's kind of hard to, what one do you axe, but then obviously you have more material for the next one. But it's a fun journey. Like, it's still in the works, just trying to find the time. Yeah, I'm really loving it. And eventually, when everything's done demo wise and all the musicians are together, because that's a nightmare. It's like herding cats each track. It's easier if it was just like one core band, that everyone's just so dedicated to, but unfortunately it doesn't work that way most of the time. Yeah, that would be full length.
So ideally we'll get a full-length album, but you might have to like release maybe in the beginning a few singles.
One or two, probably like an instrumental, then a full band, vocal type one, just to get the spark going. And but still got to get in the studio. I want to go to Sweden to record with Andy from King Diamond.
Nice.
You gotta save up a pretty coin for that first.
Yep. And so you had just mentioned, maybe an instrumental in that. Is the entire album going to be a mixture of songs, or are we thinking all instrumental, or with singers and that?
I mean, my favorite thing is I always just wanted to have a band, not put my name over everything, especially the instrumental stuff. I think there will be at least one, if not two. But the main goal for me is, having that kick-ass band with vocals and.
So one or two instrumentals?
Yeah.
Okay. Got you. I mean, I think people will be looking forward to that, given the kind of player you are. So I want to hear what you could do.
Finding a singer, it's like I'm so particular. So of course you get one, and then they run off with that band and not.
Yeah. So are you looking for one singer to sing everything? Or
perfect world, yes, but I just know that, especially post-COVID and everyone getting back and trying to tour as much as possible, I just gotta take what I can get, basically.
Yeah, just the right sound for the right song in the moment. That's awesome. And then I don't want to pressure you into giving a date, especially if you don't have one, but do you have a hope for when this would come out approximately?
I mean, if touring died down, which is not, of course. I mean, it really comes down just to getting over to Sweden. So I don't know, hopefully within the next year and a half.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to pinpoint because, as we just saw with pandemic and stuff, anything can happen. So just keep my head down, just chipping away at it. That's all I can do at the moment.
And then what's your songwriting process when you're writing for yourself?
A lot of screaming, cursing at the computer because it keeps crashing. If anyone knows me, like I guess I'm a little behind on the whole recording yourself because, a lot of people were learning that. I was on the road, so it's just like, okay, where's the snare? Okay, where's the, how do I leave that? So it's a learning process at the same time for me because, I'm doing everything myself here. when I have the time. But I'm kind of the, I'll just hear something in my head, which is funny because my phone is just filled with just audio recordings of me singing. Like when I'm at the grocery store, like, oh, I hear this riff, I can't get home, and singing to the phone. It'll start with a riff, and then literally we just sit there and just, escape into like a crazy brain and just try to hear stuff and then play around and scope out a solo over it. And if that doesn't work, okay, what, drive myself nuts basically. But eventually, after all this screaming and crying and my cat's comforting me, there's a song.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you wait for inspiration.
There's a lot of coffee and a lot of
it sounds like you wait for inspiration and then you turn that into something.
Yeah. I mean, and I think a lot of people don't talk about, they just assume like, just players, they're constantly touring and recording. They think it's just every day. No, because a lot of musicians, when we're talking to each other, they'll ask like, okay, what did you do for, during the pandemic and stuff? And some people are like, I didn't touch my guitar at all. And talking to a musician like that, you completely understand. But if they, just said that to a fan, the fan would go, what? Do you not like guitar anymore? Like just right. A whole mental thing behind it.
There's fear, like, oh no.
Like, yeah, man, I haven't picked up a guitar in 2 weeks either. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. So like one day I could be on that computer all day, song after song after song after song, and then the next day, don't even want to look at it. It's just, or nothing comes that day. It's just, I can't plan it. It just happens naturally, I guess.
And are you going to release this on your own, or are you going to shop it to somebody and hope to get it through a label?
Oh, it depends on how much publishing they want. The fun side of, deals, I don't know. I'm just playing it by ear. I don't want to jump too far ahead of myself, when it's not complete yet. That will come later.
It sounds like you're open to whatever's best for the situation. That's awesome. All right. So you also, you have a signature model with Caparison Guitars.
Everyone gets this wrong.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is it? Say it again?
Caparison.
Caparison. Oh my gosh. So, I totally,
we get Capri Sun too, which is funny.
Okay. Caparison.
Caparison, yeah.
Okay. See, I thought it was, okay. I had it wrong too, just like everybody else. So there's I saw a really cool story about how you discovered their guitars. How was it that you first knew about this company?
Andy King Diamond.
Always comes back to King Diamond, right?
I hope they need a guitar player. They could add a third guitar player. There's harmonies. But yeah, and then
was it that he had a model that he played at some point in his career?
What was it? Dillinger. Yeah, I remember it was like a cool lava, like red, and so I was like, oh, what's that? Because it's still young and not really knowing what, there's other companies other than Ibanez, Jackson, ESP, so it really caught my eye. Then, fast forward, they let me try a Horus and another model, a Tat Special, and it was completely just butter, never played anything like them. So definitely my go-tos. And then a few years later, I remember the head designer, luthier, he came to see me play Dime Bash, I think. And he really loved my playing. He never saw me play live before then, talks about a signature model. I'm like, all right.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I had also read that you liked what you were playing. You already had something of theirs that you'd been playing, like you said, for a few years. You really liked it. So it was your signature model, but you just made the necessary tweaks.
Yeah, and ain't nothing serious. The guitar itself was already perfect. I think now mine has a different cutaway on the back. And then obviously color, but obviously that doesn't do anything.
You have nice colors though. So greeny is a beautiful green one. And then pink sapphire is the beautiful pink one. So
and there's one more coming this January, but it's secret. It's gonna debut it at our next big secret European tour. So
that's awesome. Congratulations on that. That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. Do you have a preference between the two? The pink or the green? Or are they just two of your favorite colors?
Yeah, they're identical, just the colors different.
Yeah. Are they like favorite colors from way back?
Yeah. the 80s colors. I was always in the very neon.
They're very like Barbie and Poison's logo, pretty much.
Yeah, and the maple fretboard, like perfect 80s.
I love
It
it.
looks good under stage lights. It's like every photo is different depending on the color coming from the stage. So, like anything that pops.
I like it. I love it. All right. And so you have a lot going on, but what do we have? Let's wrap it all up for everybody. What do we have to look forward to with you?
Oh, gosh. Obviously, you can find the tour dates and all. Iron Maidens official, Facebook, socials, you'll find us.
You guys are easy to find, actually. Yeah. So you are obviously doing a ton of touring with the Iron Maidens. You're working on this solo album, which we're really excited about. And then the last thing I need to talk to you about is food, because you put up some really good food stories. Have you always been like somebody that like loves to cook, like good hearty food?
Yeah, actually that's another thing. I remember or my mom told me when I was a little kid in my grandmother's kitchen, I would get like a little stool. And then like, I would take the salt and stuff and act like I was cooking in the sink. So I guess if, guitar doesn't work out, I could be like the shredder chef or something.
I love it. I love it.
It's a very therapeutic thing for me. It just calms me down if I'm having a stressful day.
I love that you cook good hearty food though, because a lot of people put up food videos, and no hate. I mean, food is food, but it's like, I saw this girl, this isn't a musician, but there's this girl who made this recipe, and it was literally a brick of tofu with coconut oil on it. And this person is well loved. So everyone's like, you're so amazing. That's like the best recipe. I'll try it. And I'm like, for the love of God, that's not even a recipe. It's like, you didn't even cut the tofu, you didn't even season the tofu. So I always get like irked by those kinds of things. But I love when you post yours, because you put like food. There's like meat and potatoes. There's like things you have to actually know how to cook.
But it's funny because I'll just like go to myself before like going to the market to get everything. I'm like, okay, how stressed out am I today? Is it gonna be like a 1 hour meal? Nah, let's do a 4 hour meal. I have to wake up early and just cook all day. And I absolutely love it. I have good tune, just dancing around with a spatula, or you probably saw my video.
Yep.
It's a good escape when everything just seems to be tearing you down. So.
Is this something that you picked up from your mom and your grandmom? You said that you'd be in the kitchen with them cooking, or did you kind of teach yourself?
I mean, I had that experience that most of us do, but just finally getting a place with like a nice-ish kitchen. I just kind of, I watch a lot of Food Network and Chopped. I want to be on Chopped.
We'll get you on Chopped. That would be fun. You could have like a musician's edition of.
They actually had one episode. I think it was like Lita Ford. I forget who else was on it, but it was so long ago. But I'm like,
wait, did they really? I did not see that. I have to find that then. I have to find that. Last question for you is, do you have any advice for musicians? So I'm sure a lot of people approach you and say, tell me something that I need to know if I want to be a professional musician.
I mean, what's the cheesiest answer? Practice. I always get that one. I always say that, because especially with social media now and, as keyboard warriors, I tell a lot of people, like, if this is your dream, you want to do this, like, just make sure you have very thick skin. Because if you cannot handle the comments, because a lot of people are always jealous keyboard warriors. You could have the most perfect song in the world and you're still not Steve Vai, that kind of. And I mean, it's genderless. It's hard for everyone. You got to tunnel vision, know your end goal, and just keep everyone else out of your head. Don't compare yourself to anyone else, because that just ruins the joy for you. But I think it's just being strong and having a good head on your shoulders, really, and taking care of yourself, like sleep, don't fall into the traps. So yeah, I know it's really cheesy, right? Follow your heart.
I think it's the advice that people give more often than not, is just really want it and don't care what other people think.
It's a lot more than playing your instrument that you got to prepare for. And I think a lot of people don't even realize that, because it is a business, not just a hobby. So.
Right. A really expensive hobby. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I've loved learning more about you, and it was nice to spend time with you.
All right, well, thank you. Can't wait to see this.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode of MetalNet TV's Conversations with Courtney Cox. If you haven't already seen it, I also spoke to her bandmates Linda McDonald and Nikki Stringfield, so make sure you check those out. You could find those at metalnettv.com or through Instagram, or just going straight to the YouTube channel, which hopefully you're already subscribed to. I'm looking forward to bringing you new interviews in the coming weeks, so make sure you stay tuned. Take care and much respect.